So who here is currently in charge of hiring for their respective organizations? Who all is in talent acquisition and actively in recruiting positions? Awesome. Who here has ever struggled with finding the right individual for those open jobs? A lot of us here, right? And that's why I think the conversation this evening that we're having is so timely. So this is all about where talent meets influence, and about sharing the best practices of how thought leaders in our industry attract and retain the best talent in the world. And for me, whenever I want to learn something new, I always try to find someone who's already produced that result and learn from their best practices. And I'm very excited to say that we have an all-star panel to learn from this evening, and I'd like to introduce them now. So first up, we have Adam Posner. And Adam is the founder and managing director at NHP Talent Group, a boutique New York-based staffing firm specializing in talent acquisition for senior-level roles in digital marketing, media, product and content creation, and startups, creative agencies, and brands. He's also the host of the Podcast, showcasing experts to help you harness your inner tenacity to drive your career forward. Let's hear it for Adam.
Thank you.
And next, we have Courtney McAttee, who's been a leader in talent acquisition since 2005. She has an extensive background in recruiting candidates from campus talent to executives in areas like agency work, consumer products, technology, and healthcare. A people leader for the past 11 years, Courtney has helped build and stabilize multiple talent departments. Today, she is the director of talent acquisition at Mailchimp, the largest marketing automation platform in the world. Give it up for Courtney. And last but not least, we have Craig Fisher. And Craig leads marketing and employer branding at Allegis Global Solutions. His digital branding methods have been adopted as best practices by companies like LinkedIn, Zappos, Yum Brands, Hootsuite, and many more. He's the author of Inbound Recruiting and a popular keynote speaker at tech, social media, HR and recruiting, and sales conferences worldwide. Craig is also the founder of TalentNet Live, the top recruiting conference in the Southwest, which will celebrate its 10th year anniversary this December. Give it up for my hero, Craig Fisher.
Need some intro music for him.
I'm not your hero?
What an entrance. Awesome. I love it. So to set up the conversation flow for this evening, we're going to be going for about 45 minutes, covering three main topics: talent attraction, talent retention, and then finally, recruitment philosophy. So as we have our discussion and you have questions come up, please write them down and take note of them so we can ask them during the Q&A. Is that cool? Yes. Awesome. So Craig, Courtney, and Adam, before we get started, is there anything that you'd like to say?
Just a quick shout out to Kyle Burt back there. Thank you.
Kyle Burt, the man. If you haven't followed him, please do.
Kyle's
our LinkedIn Live expert.
You, Kyle. Appreciate your help tonight, Kyle.
I'll just say that this microphone doesn't have a back.
Uh-oh.
All right, yes, good. All right, don't worry.
Christian, do we have another mic, or do we want to share one?
We can share.
Okay, so we'll share one. Courtney and Craig, is that cool for you guys? Share?
Oh.
We'll share one mic.
Okay.
So it looks like we're going to be passing down the mics then. Is that cool? So one works?
Yellow and blue make green.
Okay. All right, so we'll be passing down the mics. All right. So first up, we're going to start with talent attraction. And this question goes for everyone first. So starting with Craig, tell us about your talent attraction strategy and what makes it unique.
All right, so personally, I post lots of cute pictures of my kids online. I have 3 boys, and that's my talent attraction strategy. But really, it's be human, and that's what I help large organizations all over the world to do better, to actually show that heart of who they are. Companies aren't just organizations, they're made up of people. And if you don't give those people a voice and help them culturize and humanize your company's brand to the world, then you're just something that was made up in a boardroom. And that's not what you are. There's an organic, transparent thing there, and it's all about your company. And that's people.
Thank you, Craig. Courtney?
Thank you. I think as with any strategy, it's important to know first the why. So we want to spend a lot of time with why we're doing what we're doing, and then we get to the how. So I think the first thing is knowing who your audience is and what you're trying to attract, because to Craig's point, we're all human, and to Lila's point, the messaging matters, right? So no matter what we say, if it's not landing or meeting you where you are, you're not going to be attracted to that message. So we spend a lot of time understanding who and what we're trying to attract, and making sure that our values and our mission are coming forth through our communication, through our website, through our interviews and our events and things like that. So all of those tangible artifacts are things that build to that strategy, but we can't get there without understanding what that needs to be first.
Great, and myself as a recruiter, it's my voice and it's my brand out there. And when candidates engage with me, I want them to see credibility and authenticity. And for me, that's putting out information that's relevant, that's useful, that's added value. So when their search comes up and I reach out to them on LinkedIn, if I send an email to them, there's that name recognition and building that brand. And something that I talk about with a lot of my clients, what do you look for in candidates?
You define and what tangible benefits you've experienced having one.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, it's giving a platform to have a voice, to share my point of view, to share my authenticity, to share my story. It's very interesting. Throughout my career, I've been hired, I've been fired, I've hired people, and I've fired people. And I think that gives me a real deep-rooted sense and ability to be empathetic, to understand where candidates are coming from, and not look at a resume and say, okay, that person's only been in that role 6 months, 5 months, they're a job hopper, I'm going to pass over them. But have those conversations and understand why. Did they care for an elderly relative? Was their spouse out of work or they had to step it up and do something else, outside of the room? What is that story? Why did they leave their job? Did they have to move? Were they, a military spouse? What is that reason for them moving? And having that understanding, really puts you, it's like a jewel.
I think if you want to clip it to your lapel.
Yes, and that really gives us the ability as a recruiter to understand where people are coming from and who they are. And that goes back to the personal brand. That's who I am. I listen, I'm empathetic, and I understand where people come from.
Awesome. Thank you, Adam. Courtney, you're next. So Courtney, Mailchimp has a very unique feature in their interview process, specifically the Choose Your Own Adventure interview process. Tell us more about what this actually means and the benefits you've experienced as a result of it.
Yeah, absolutely. I love talking about this. So we have, as part of our technical interview, it's called a Choose Your Own Adventure. And I do want to note this was developed in partnership with our engineering group and them driving a lot of it, which I think is key to success as talent professionals, is that partnership and including and making your hiring managers feel accountable as part of the process. So in an effort to, again, meet people where they are, to drive our value of inclusivity, and to allow candidates to show up as their best selves, right? We all want our candidates to show up and do well. We don't want them to fail in the interview. We want them to get the job. So it's our responsibility as interviewers to help them, right? To bring them to their limit of their experience, not to create this sort of a gotcha moment during that interview. So as part of the technical assessment, we've now developed a Choose Your Own Adventure where we give 3 or 4 options to our candidates to showcase their technical ability. It may be a pairing exercise in the audience, it may be, in the interview, it may be sharing a code sample they've previously worked on, it could be a whiteboarding exercise, and really that allows the candidate to present themselves in their best possible way, and it also drives for maybe the single mom who doesn't have time to go home and develop a code sample that she hasn't already worked on, or it allows someone who graduated from maybe a coding boot camp recently who doesn't have a years-long portfolio of work to showcase throughout an interview. So it really does allow that candidate to bring their best selves to us, and allows us to get a much more thorough evaluation of that candidate and their skills. It also brings in some of the softer skills, right? We can walk through their thought process if it's a code sample. We can walk through their collaboration if it's a pairing exercise. So it's been really, really beneficial. We've gotten a lot of great feedback. Candidates feel comfortable. They feel gracious. They feel much more prepared, which again results in much more successful outcomes for us.
Awesome. Craig, you are overseeing a massive project for Toyota. Tell us about the project and what your talent attraction strategy is.
All right, so that's a loaded question. I'm gonna put that right here. All right, so Toyota moved from California to Plano a few years ago, right? And they started coming to the TalentNet conference, which I host, to get to know the local recruiting community. And very quickly I noticed that they were coming in droves, lots of them. They were very interested in learning more about this market. And so I started asking them to speak at TalentNet, which they've done over the last couple of years, which has been great. Then they asked me to do some consulting for them, and then that turned into a bigger project for my company, Allegis, to help them do digital transformation. So within Toyota, there are a couple of different groups. There's Toyota Motor Company North America, which is a big company. And then there's Toyota Financial Services, that's also there, that needs to hire about 200 technologists. They're agile, by the way, now. That's what this digital transformation is all about. Over the next couple of years, and they don't really have the structure to do that. They don't have the recruiting structure. They don't really have the tools. They don't really have the segmented brand for Toyota Financial Services to make that happen, to make people understand why it's interesting to come work there specifically. It's all just kind of Toyota. And so my team is helping them differentiate themselves, build a better recruiting structure for that specific type of role. And we are actually hosting the TalentNet Live Conference at their headquarters on December 6th. And if you are a business systems analyst, a scrum master, or in technology, you could come and sit in the audience with about 300 recruiters and talent acquisition teams at Toyota's headquarters on December 6th. TalentNetLive.com. For all you people on LinkedIn listening, would be a great place to find out about that. But our talent attraction strategy is to actually interview the employees there and find out what's really great about the organization. So we do these live interviews with several different types of employees. Some may be more enthusiastic about the brand, some may be less enthusiastic about what they do there at work. Not necessarily the brand, but their jobs, the organization. And we purposely ask for all of that sort of diversity in the people we interview. And so we want to know where are the great things that maybe we're not talking about out in the universe, and what are the pitfalls that we need to acknowledge and probably even address on places like Glassdoor. And so the talent attraction strategy is really about transparency, and it's really about accentuating the positive and definitely acknowledging the negative.
Thank you, Craig. Question for Adam? Adam, something that I found really interesting about your background is your background's not really even in talent. You first came from the marketing world.
Correct.
And a fun fact about Adam, he actually worked for Gary Vee as part of VaynerMedia. Who here knows Gary Vee? Right? So Adam, something you talk about often is the importance of credibility and authenticity. Tell us, why is this important, and how do you incorporate this into your talent attraction strategy?
Absolutely. The recruitment industry is flooded. There are to be a stockbroker, you have to pass a test. To help somebody make one of their biggest life decisions, just need a LinkedIn password and an account, and you're good to go. So it's truly important to establish yourself as somebody who knows what the heck they're doing. And understanding the process, and understanding we're talking about the laws. For example, in New York State, you're not allowed to ask somebody's salary. So you have to be able to play that game as well. You have to be able to understand the role.
That addresses his question back there. That's one of those things that people shouldn't be asking.
Right. There's different ways to talk about salary. We could talk about that, offline for sure.
Not illegal in Texas, by the way. Can still ask that.
And you could carry a gun in most places in Texas, as I saw this afternoon. So back to credibility and authenticity,
We digress.
let's bring that back around. You want to be looked to, as I said, going back to be a thought leader, to know what you're talking about in your industry, to understand the ins and outs, and also from the hiring manager perspective, whether it's internal or external, so they trust you, that they know that you understand the process, that you're going to ask the candidates the right question, and find out not just those hard skills, but what we were talking about earlier today with Lila. Are they going to incorporate themselves as a thread in the fabric of your organization? And be a valuable team member and someone who feels valued in the organization. So being a recruiter, there's a lot more to it than just, matching, square peg, square hole. It's not just that at all.
Love it. Thank you, Adam. Next question is for Courtney. Courtney, one of the secrets you've mentioned to attracting talent is showcasing your culture and values. Tell us about the culture at Mailchimp and how do you go about showcasing it?
If I could just bring Lila back up, she did an amazing job. Not a paid ad, I promise, but give me your address again when we're done. No.
I know where she lives. We got this.
Excellent. Excellent. The culture at Mailchimp is phenomenal, and it's changing, right, as it should, with a company that grows quickly and evolves with its consumers and its customers. I think there are some tenets to our culture that don't move, right, and those are our core values, and that is what we hire to. So we've stripped the word fit, culture fit, from any of our interviews, from any of our job descriptions, from anything that we talk about. We don't want a fit, we want a complement. We want someone who will bring in what we're missing, who will bring a new idea, a new background, a different perspective. All of that is what drives our innovation and just pushes our company forward. But those values, our core values as an organization, are humility, creativity, and independence, and those don't move. So we are very, very comfortable passing on the right fit skill-wise if they are not a match for our values as an organization. I think we bring those to the table in a lot of our messaging through our website that you saw. I love that our users are talking about it. It's one that we do try and bring through that entire employee experience as well as our user experience. So those are our North Stars in our hiring decisions, in our business decisions really as well. So I think as long as we stick to those, it's easy to drive the culture through our hiring.
And when you say showcasing your culture, like what are the mediums that you use? Is it Facebook, Instagram? Like what does that look like from a content perspective?
Yeah, we use Instagram a lot. So we'll have a series called A Day in the Life where we'll give our Instagram handle to one of our employees and they'll introduce themselves in the morning and we'll follow them around all day, which is awesome. It really allows for engagement. You truly get a day in the life of what it's like to be maybe a designer. Yeah, total Instagram takeover. We'll do fun, quirky videos on Instagram if you follow us. Our ads are quirky and fun, which is just who we are as a brand and who we are as employees. We are misfits. Our CEO, Ben, will talk about that a lot. It's called out on our website, so we welcome all the misfits artists and engineers. So it's very much a place of we want you to bring your whole self to work, and that is celebrated and showcased in our marketing materials, in our swag, in our event strategy, in our commercials, in our original content that we're engaging with now. So.
Awesome. Thank you, Courtney. Question for Craig. Craig, you are the founder of TalentNet, and you have been
We've
around...
established that.
What's that? We have. And I say that because you have been around and brought together the best thought leaders in our industry. So having had that perspective, if there was one piece of advice that you could give us to up our talent attraction game, what would that one piece of advice be?
All right, so a couple of things. First, don't sit in bar stools when you're on a panel. Everyone tends to slump, right? And so later you'll see that, and that's just me personally, but I think that happens a lot. Secondly, swag is important. I've been at, hundreds of conferences over the last 15 years, and I've never seen Mailchimp at one of them, and I don't have any Mailchimp swag. So this is a personal request right here in front of everyone.
Just take everyone's addresses.
Right? Just a little bit of swag, okay? But no, the talent attraction strategy is to find the heroes in your organization, right? There are heroes everywhere. There are people who have a great voice that are already doing amazing things. None of us are just one thing, right? I'm a recruiting professional, but I'm also a talent acquisition leader. I'm also a marketing strategist. I'm also a business owner. I'm also an avid boater and runner and like lots of things, right? And everyone in your organizations are like that. So find those heroes, find those great stories, and tell them on a regular basis. I love the Instagram takeover and follow somebody around for a day. I want to follow them home, actually, on Instagram and see how their life is after work. I'm not kidding. This is how I feel about it. But the swag is cool. I was a TA leader at a software company, a Fortune 500 software company called CA Technologies, had a big office here in Dallas for a couple of years. And we literally sent swag bags to people to celebrate every little thing, new baby, new pet, move to a new place, all kinds of things. And it had just branded swag for their new house or their new dog or whatever, and a little postcard that said, hey, if you're going to celebrate this online, tag us at Life at CA on Instagram, Twitter, and LinkedIn, and Facebook, and because we'd love to celebrate with you. And we sent these all over the world. They're cheap, right? No big deal, but they're cool. They're branded swag, and people did it all over the world. And it was the least expensive branding I've ever done, and the most effective branding I've ever done, because you're just giving people a little credit for being a person and not just a number, and I like that.
Love it. Thank you, Craig. So before we jump into our next topic, which is talent retention, is there anything else you guys want to add to the attraction piece?
Let me say one quick thing, if I may. So part of what we experienced through our swag, because people go crazy for our swag, because it's awesome, I will say that, is we wanted that to not be the only reason that people were coming to talk to us. So as we got more comfortable with ourselves and with our opportunities and with the right people that we needed and knew that would be happy with us, we started to think about that a little bit differently. So one example of how I think we used our culture and showed up more authentically was at a really large conference. If any of y'all are in the tech world, Grace Hopper, if you're familiar with Grace Hopper.
Happening next week?
It is in Orlando. 20,000 women show up to Grace Hopper. It's a women in technology conference. Most of the women in attendance are either still in school, or freshly graduated, kind of dipping their toe in the tech water, probably have not navigated that type of situation before. So we showed up every few years and had this amazing table and booth and swag, and we got such great, engagement with folks, but we didn't really felt a connection. We didn't grab that kind of connection or that communication point with them. So we went back 2 years later and we slashed our swag budget, we slashed our booth size, and we said, what can we do as part of kind of showcasing our culture, showcasing our values, empowering to show up a little bit differently. So we hosted an event the night before where we invited women to come and meet with our women technologists, our recruiting team, our hiring managers, and we walked them through mock interviews. We looked at their resume. We helped prepare them for how to walk up to a table and start a conversation about who they were in the 15 seconds that you get at that type of environment. We got so much more engagement and satisfaction and connection out of that, and longer term, right? So we were able to nurture those relationships a lot longer because of that longer more fulfilling connection in the moment. So I think that's a really good example of our showcasing our culture and values in action that we've noticed has made a really, really large difference in our attraction strategy.
Love that. Thank you, Jordan.
Just one quick point there. I think it's also in talent acquisition, sometimes we live in this echo chamber where we only hear what's happening in the company from everyone we work around. I think it's really important to have your ear in the ground of what's happening in the talent community, what candidates are saying, what employees are saying about working there. I hear it time in and time out, positive and negative. Like, oh, I have a friend that works there, I hear great things. And I've also heard the opposite as well. I heard that you guys work all types of hours, this, X, Y, and Z. So I think it's really important that we're not blindsided in talent acquisition, one way or another, and we're able to respond either positively, if someone has something good to say, we could reinforce it, or we're able to counter and say, you know what, it's interesting that you heard that. Let me tell you a little bit more on that. So really having your ear to the ground, whether it be in the tech world, being involved on the message boards, what people are saying about your company, Glassdoor, being able to respond to those as well, and being able to react.
Awesome. Thank you, Adam. So we're now moving into talent retention. It's one thing to attract and recruit the best talent in the world. It's another thing to keep them. So starting with Courtney. The turnover rate at Mailchimp is an astounding 6%. What do you attribute this to, and how can we duplicate this in our respective organizations?
Yeah, 6% is crazy low. We're very, very fortunate. We've been able to retain some amazing, amazing talent. I think I would attribute it, one, to we are a very mission-led organization. We are in business to empower the underdog. That is our mission as an organization. And people rally behind that. We hear stories from candidates all the time of, my mom was a small business owner and I saw how hard it was for her to get this business off the ground, and I felt that growing up. Or I watched my grandfather struggle to open his family business, and to see the tools that are now available that could have helped him make a difference. People really connect with that, and our employees really connect with that. So I think being really mission-led and vision-led has been really helpful in retaining talent, because people come to work every day to do work that they believe is making an impact, and they see the impact that it's making. I also think that we've been very fortunate to grow really quickly, which has presented a lot of really cool opportunity for our folks. We've been able to stretch people into new roles, to grow people into new teams and jobs that didn't exist when they may have started 2 or 3 years ago. So just where we are at organically in our life cycle as a company has been really helpful as well.
Thank you, Courtney. Question for Adam. So Adam, you have kind of an interesting business model in the sense that you do contingency, you do some RPO, and also kind of some corporate stuff, right? So you work with a bunch of different companies. So what are you seeing that companies are doing that are proven to build employee loyalty?
I think any employee wants to know a couple things. They want to know where they stand within an organization and where they're going. What does that career path look like? And when they know that they have a career path and there's opportunities and there's not going to be any type of ceiling above them, they know that the opportunities are there and they want to stay, or they'd like to stay. The problem that I see, and I'm sure you guys see it as well, when I ask candidates, why are you looking to make a move, they say there's no career growth. And I try to unpack that a little bit more, because it's kind of a throwaway statement, right? What are you looking for? I'm looking for a new challenge. Same type of thing, and I want to unpack that. And I really want to understand the size of the company that you're working at, why there are no opportunities, you asking for those opportunities, what is keeping you down? So I think employees want to be valued, they want to know where they are, where they stand from a performance perspective, and where they're going, what that road ahead looks like. And when that's clear to them, loyalty ensues, follows.
Love it. Thank you for that, Adam. Question for Craig. That's okay, you can clap for that. Yay! So Craig, being in the RPO business, you're known for recruiting candidates on a massive scale. But what have you seen that works to retain employees on a massive scale?
Swag. No. Employees do like swag. I agree with not giving it away at conferences, to be honest. I'd rather have the party the night before. Totally agree. I still want some swag. But feeling needed is very, very important. So we talk about mission-driven, that sort of thing. It's important. Generally, our mission statements aren't what the actual mission is, right? So the mission talks about customer service and this and that and being customer first. But the real mission is kill the competition, right? That's the actual mission. But we don't write that on the website and on the job descriptions. But if you actually convey that to your employees, we need you to help us kill the competition, and you really feel needed because of that, that keeps people there. And it's a stretch thing, because I'm going to be honest, I've got about 7 jobs right now, literally at one company, and I can't leave, because if I did, I feel like it would all fall apart. And I like that I feel that needed, that I have a reason to do all these jobs. It makes me feel good. My company pays sort of in the median range. The bonuses are good if I do my job well and I help the company succeed. They're great, in fact. But the honest thing is, paying the highest doesn't mean you're going to get the highest retention. Toyota's a great example. They pay very median range, but the benefits of being there are amazing. They're all about respect for each other. If you have a conversation with somebody in the hall at Toyota and you feel like respecting them would be to cut that conversation short to respect their time, you'd be wrong. If you cut that conversation short, that's not respecting them at all. Okay, and they really feel this, they live it. They actually have this thing. There's multiple restaurants in this beautiful facility that they built. There's 6 Starbucks, there's 13 restaurants. And they actually have this thing that you can turn upside down. One side is green, one side is red. Green means I want someone to sit with me at this table. Red means I'm busy thinking right now. Yeah. And it's all about respect for each other. But they feel like they need each other. And being needed is really the key to retention, if you ask me.
Thank you, Greg. Question for Courtney. Yeah, give it up. Courtney, when you and I connected last week, you shared with me an idea that's not really often discussed, which is this idea of healthy attrition, which implies it's actually okay for a percentage of your employee force to leave. Tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah, I think I really caught you off guard with that, didn't I?
Yeah, you did.
He was like,
I thought I heard
ooh,
everything
let's
before.
talk
Yeah.
about that. Yeah, I think there's a real tangible effect to healthy attrition. So think about it from your perspective as an employee. If you start going to work and you're not feeling impact, you're not feeling valued, you're not seeing results, you're not feeling challenged, you're not going to show up and do your best work. So when I flip that from an employer's perspective, we want employees to come in, and as we think about that employee experience from the attraction to development and really growing employees through their lifetime at Mailchimp, we want them in that stage to do their very best work, have the best experiences of their career, and do that at Mailchimp. There may come a time where there's a transition there, and that's not a mutually beneficial relationship anymore. So I think it's so important for employers and employees to recognize that and find that moment of an inflection, right, where it might not be the right role. How do we help you move over? How do we help you move up? How do we help you move back and into something different from a growth and development perspective? Or how do we support you as you move on and become a happy alumni of Mailchimp? So I think there's as much value to how we treat you and attract you into Mailchimp as to how we support you when it's time for you to go on and do great work somewhere else. So yeah, our attrition is increasing. Again, I think it's organic based on where we're at in our life cycle. We're getting bigger, our roles are changing. We're finding people who really thrive in that startup culture, and Mailchimp's a little bit bigger now, and maybe they're not finding that impact there or vice versa. But I think it's a really large responsibility of the employer to understand that and to be supportive of that employee journey, whether it is kind of recommitting into the organization or helping to support as they move on.
Thank you, Courtney. Question for Craig. Craig, for companies that are experiencing an unhealthy amount of attrition, what's the first thing they should do to begin turning things around?
Well, you got a survey. So let me just say Mailchimp's a great tool to...
I've paid no one.
No, no, I know there's another survey tool. I'm aware. I'm not using that terminology today. So, no, I'm a Mailchimp. I've got 9 Mailchimp accounts. I'm a day one Mailchimp guy. I use HubSpot too. Just sorry. So, but the reality is, so what Mailchimp does with healthy attrition is very forward thinking. It's the Zappos model, right? If you all know about Zappos, within the first 3 months of working there, at the end of 3 months, if you're not, super happy, or even if you are super happy, they'll pay you $5,000 to leave. And if you take that $5,000, then probably you don't need to be there, right? And so you need to start thinking about what your incentives are, how your referrals are coming in. There are lots of serial referrers in organizations. And what happens is, if 60% of our
hires are because of referrals, and we've got these serial referrers that are just trying to get the money, then we're doing it wrong, right? So we need to take a look at our programs. It's not necessarily the work, but part of it is also the promise, okay? We need to talk to our hiring managers, and if they're telling the wrong story, that's not realistic, that's not really what happens when you get into the job, then that promise is not there 3 months down the line. And our onboarding becomes a big problem, okay? Because we get into a job and then we get handed a bunch of paperwork and a bunch of links, fill out this, read this, watch these videos, and no one talks to us for days. We might get a check-in here and there. You can automate some of that, but what you need is constant communication and the real value proposition translated in the job interview by the hiring manager. That's what you're actually going to be doing in the job. Don't oversell it, and don't just try to make your hires because you've got a budget.
Thank you, Craig. Question for Adam.
One at a time here.
Adam, one of the keys to retention that you mentioned is recognition and making team members feel valued. What are the best practices to implementing this into our business?
Recruitment's a grind. I mean, it definitely is. And as soon as you fill a role, there's one waiting right behind it.
Don't put your feet up.
Right. Never fill them. Just keep them open continuously. You want people, and it goes across the organization too, that they feel valued, that they're making a difference in the company, that they are chartered with going out and recruiting somebody that's going to make their company that they work for better. And it's not about just filling a seat. And how do you do that? It's about making sure that recruitment doesn't sit in a bubble within an organization. Recruitment's involved in every step of the process. You're involved in meeting clients, so you're understanding what the types of clients are. You can sit in the back of them, that's fine. But understanding when a candidate's on the phone with you, tell me about the clients, and you're not going to be like, oh, I don't know, I'm just a recruiter. No, you really understand that. It's sitting with the hiring managers and sitting with the teams to see what that team looks like. What is the personality on the team? What is the makeup of that team? Having lunch with that team, and really understanding who they are and spending time with them again. The recruiter is the first line of contact with any new employee. We're the ambassador, we're the advocate of that company. So it's critical for us to really be the voice of the organization so we can tell that story. And then we're telling the right story. We're not just trying to blow smoke up people's, and we're not just trying to fill a role. We want to have the right person within the organization.
Awesome. Thank you, Adam. So before we close with our final topic, anything else that you want to share about talent retention?
Yes, just be transparent. I mean, be honest and be transparent. That's going to go a much longer way than any marketing campaign, any employer brand. Transparency is key.
So one of my favorite quotes of all time is a quote by Jim Rohn, and he says, "You can't change the wind that blows, but you can change the set of the sail." And he likens the set of the sail to your philosophy, because a lot of times it's the way that we think and do that creates the kind of results that we have. So I wanted to tap into our panelists' recruitment strategy to see if we could duplicate their results. This question is for all of you, starting with Craig. What is the guiding principle or mantra that influences your overall recruitment strategy?
Okay, so for me, it's literally do the right thing. There are so many shortcuts you can do in recruiting. There are so many ways that you can make a buck or get your quota filled or just fill that seat. And you know if it feels right or not. So just always in dealing with people, everybody that you deal with, your customers, the job candidate, everybody in the organization, they're all your partners, right? They're all your peers, okay? And someday they might even be your friend. But if you do the right thing on a regular basis and you know what that is in your heart, if you know you're just doing something to get it done quickly and cut corners or make a buck, that's not the right thing.
Thank you, Craig. Courtney?
So a few words that stick out for me about our recruiting philosophy. First would be collaborative. I mentioned it earlier, but I think it's super important and imperative to do the job well, that it is a collaborative effort between recruiting, your people partner, your hiring leaders, your stakeholders as the interview process, there needs to feel that shared accountability amongst the group to get that resolved. Another one for us would be consultative. So I do not want us to be viewed as a service organization. I want us to be the subject matter experts to provide really well-educated and guided recommendations to our teams to support their decision, but to be at the table and having those conversations with our hiring teams, guiding them through that decision-making process. And I think another one for us is definitely equitable. Our recruiting process needs to be equitable for everyone involved, from attraction through selection. There needs to be that equitable opportunity for anyone who chooses or wants to come into an interview process at Mailchimp.
Thank you, Courtney. Over to Adam.
Sure, and for me it comes down to a word that I think is being thrown around a lot these days is empathy. But what does that really mean? And for me, I've been in so many of these candidate shoes before. I've been through the gauntlet of a hiring process at American Express. I've been, through the early stages of, SiriusXM when the hiring managers didn't know what they want and a role evolving. So it's really being empathetic, understanding where people are coming from, what they have going on outside of work, and really putting yourself in their shoes. And that's the approach that I really take to the recruiting that I do. We're not machines, we're not robots, we're not an ATS machine. We're recruiters, we're relationship people. And that goes across the entire organization, and it starts with us, and ultimately it ends with us too.
Thank you, Adam. Adam, keep the mic. We'll start with you here. So in recruitment, especially with the new technology that's coming in, there's all sorts of things that are changing. So Adam, what's one thing that you've changed about your approach to talent acquisition over the last 6 months that has yielded a net benefit to your business?
Absolutely, and that goes back to the first question you asked me around personal branding. It's putting my voice out there and utilizing LinkedIn, utilizing Instagram, and putting my voice out there and building credibility and authenticity. We haven't had this opportunity before, and having such organic reach, and it's incredible. And people will find you when you put your voice out there.
Love it. Thank you, Adam. Courtney?
For me, it's not necessarily been in the 6 months, and I'll share a moment of vulnerability here. I think coming into Mailchimp, it was a very eye-opening experience for me. I came from larger enterprise backgrounds. I started in the agency world where the pace was different, the goals were a little bit different, the drive and what was to be accomplished was a little bit different. So I really had to adjust and take a moment and slow my pace and appreciate the experience that we were creating. So all of these examples that I've been able to talk about tonight have made such a difference for me personally in the way that I look at recruiting and the way that I help empower teams to do that really well. And I think that I'm just so gracious that Mailchimp was able to provide me with that introspection and the opportunity to do that. For me, it's totally changed the way I look at recruiting in general.
Thank you, Courtney. Greg?
So over the last, I'd say starting a couple of years ago, but really in the last few months, we've been doing this a lot more. And that's enabling our recruiters to do more actual recruiting activities. So you can automate so many things now. You don't need recruiters scheduling interviews with hiring managers. That can all be automated. You don't need recruiters reminding hiring managers to actually talk to employees on their first or second day of employment. That can all be automated as well. And so implementing simple and smart technology where needed and where it can benefit the world, just a little bit of automation can change all kinds of parameters. And that means recruiters being more efficient, actually getting more done, spending more quality time with their family, right? Recruiters recruit all day long. They never stop recruiting. They take calls at all hours. It's just a fact. And so if some of that stuff that is just busy work can be taken out of their way and they can focus on relationships, the world gets better.
Love it. Thank you, Craig. So who here, we had lots of talent acquisition folks in here. Who here has ever been ghosted by a candidate or had a candidate rejection? Raise your hand. Not a great feeling, right? So starting with Craig. How have you dealt with failure in the past and the inevitable ups and downs that the recruiting industry has?
So when I have failure, I know what I'm good at, right? And I just go back to that. And you just keep doing the right thing over and over and over again. If somebody does something that basically is trying to take part of your farm. Just remember to keep farming the way you know to do it right and do it well, and keep putting the good vibe out there in the world. So you keep doing the right thing, and success always comes back to you.
Thank you, Craig. Courtney?
Yeah, similarly, I had a thought around just getting back to basics. I think when we do find that point of failure, it's typically in a high stress moment, right, where we know we're not in our mode, right? We know something's going on. So kind of slowing down, taking a breath, getting back to basics. I also think it's super important for those of us who are leaders in the room, or who have the opportunity to work with maybe more junior recruiters, is to help them celebrate that moment of failure and to find the opportunity in it. Not to, just point out that it was wrong, but to point out, hey, what did you learn? What are we going to do differently next time? That drives innovation, that drives improvement, and I think it's important to help celebrate those moments too.
Ring the bell, good and bad. Agreed.
Right, I think it was it Einstein that said that, failure is success in progress, right? You have to fail to move up, and I think that's something that's been a staple in my career. Every positive move I made was built on those failures, and I wouldn't be where I am today if it wasn't for that. And being able to look down and deep when things are bad, when things are crappy, and harness that inner tenacity to pull myself forward. And that's something I really try to pull out from everybody that I work with. Every day is not going to be sunshine and roses. It's not. So when you see someone else down, help them pull themselves out. If you have that power to inspire somebody to turn their day around, then do it. Simple as that.
Love it. Thank you, Adam. So I have one final question to ask our panelists before we enter into the Q&A. So for those questions that you wanted to ask, go ahead and start dialing them up so we can begin that engagement after this final question. So the final question is this, and we'll start with Adam. We've talked about a lot of different ideas here. So give us one more piece of advice, your best piece of advice, to help us up our recruitment, talent acquisition, and retention game.
After 15 years, I pivoted from a career in marketing to a career in recruiting. At the age of 35, I started day one, rookie, day one new career, and it was scary. I didn't know what to do. I was panicking. I was nervous, and I was lucky enough to have an amazing mentor, a gentleman by the name of Tom Hull. And he said to me in my first day of recruiting, plan your work and work your plan. And that's a mantra I repeat every single day when I start working. Plan your work and work your plan. Let that sink in, and hopefully you can take some action on that.
Thank you, Adam. Courtney?
I know, why do I keep trying? They're like, piece of advice in recruiting. I would encourage folks to be creative. Listen, ask a lot of questions. I just told a story today. My first 6 months in recruiting, one screen was an ATS and the other screen was Google. And as I was talking to candidates, I was just Googling everything they were saying because I had no idea what they were talking about. But the next call, I knew a little bit more than I did on the previous call. So don't be afraid to ask those questions and to keep learning. Build your network and nurture your network. Yes. I think that nurturing is the part that we lose. We get really busy, our days get in the way, we have the next job to fill. Nurture the network, make time for that in your week. I have a leader who does that very well, and he's taught me well to build in time for those coffee meetings, those lunches, those after work meetings, whatever it can be. Really continue to nurture that.
Thank you, Courtney. Craig?
Yep, so I'm going to kind of follow on that and just say consistency is key, right? Consistently be you. The stuff that you put out in the world when you're looking for a job and you decide that I now need to talk to people and network with people and post stuff online so that people notice me, keep doing that when you get your job, right? I mean, always. Because what happens is you build this persona and expectations in your network that you don't even know about. People will read your blog that you've never met. People will read everything that you put out there that you have no idea. There's so many lurkers who will never like, click, or share anything that you do, right? Yes, Courtney's aunt is a lurker. But she's a local, so I'm going to give her a break. It's good. So the reality is you have to be consistent with your emotions as well. You can't get too excited and go in these bursts of activity and excitement and then get depressed and have these lulls where you disappear for 6 months, because that's also not good for your job. If you're going to be in recruiting especially, or sales, or just about anything, you gotta kind of stay right here. You can do a little of this and a little of this. You can't really never celebrate, but you also can't really never get down on yourself. You have to do a little of both, but you have to maintain that consistent line, because if you do too much of this and too much of that, you're gonna burn out fast. So consistency of activity, consistency of emotion and celebration, and right within that width of proper perspective is how you should keep through it.
Thank you, Craig. Before we go into Q&A, let's hear it for Craig Fisher, Courtney McAttee, and Adam Posner. All right, so this is the best part of the evening, because ultimately this is not about us, it's about you and how we can invest into you with our thought leadership. So who's got the first question? Kyle Burt, our LinkedIn man. Uh-oh, is it a technical thing?
Nope. So I wanted to give the LinkedIn Live some love here. So Michelle Shapiro has a question for you guys. She said she's really nervous when she goes into interviews. So what kind of tips would you give her to kind of ease her nerves?
All right, so I'll start. The person you're interviewing with is your peer. If you've ever done a job, they have also done a job. They are your peer. Okay, so they're learning from you just like you're learning from them. Have something to teach them.
That's awesome. Wow, good for them. Who's got the next one? What's your name?
I'm Lisa.
Thanks for coming, Lisa.
Thank you. Hey, so I have a question for you. You talked about, or I forgot what your name was, but you talked about how you are hiring people to kind of help you smoke your competition, and also, that you like to highlight heroes at your job. So one of the things I was wondering was, how are you communicating, and what are you doing to make those values inclusive and welcoming to women in tech?
Yes, great question. I love that.
I like that. Thank you, Lisa.
So you can boil this down actually to a job description. There's a tool called Textio that will literally tell you that there are certain words that turn women off in a job description, and they won't apply. So competitive words are very not good for getting women to apply. So if you want to kill your competition, you have to say it in a way that is female friendly. And this tool, Textio, I'm just going to tell you this once. Textio, I hope you're not listening. You can get a free trial for a little while and turn it on and then turn it back off. It's a great tool, and I highly recommend you purchase the subscription if you're going to use it at any length. Yeah, absolutely. No, I'm not getting paid for this. I'm friends with them. It's good. But yeah, a lot of it is about your language. And language is very important. And if you've got a diverse culture, and if you're trying to hire a diverse workforce, you have to look at the language of the people that you're striving to hire.
A couple things, because we deal with this a lot at Mailchimp, right? We're in a very flashy industry, right, where a lot of this gets highlighted in the news. So as part of who we are is very inclusive. I think we do that organically pretty well, but it's something that we continually need to work on and get better at. One very tactical thing that we've done from our job descriptions, in addition to Textio, which also is an awesome tool, we've stripped years of experience from our job requirements. Studies show that if women do not match all of their requirements, that they will not apply for the job. Men, if they match 50%, will apply.
Are you finding an influx of resumes coming in and you don't have those general guidelines?
Yeah, we've taken years of experience as a requirement out of our job
Are
descriptions.
you adding additional workload to your recruiters to screen the resumes?
No, not necessarily. He was asking about how our recruiters screen then, based on adding additional workload, which is a fair point. We can happy to chat.
I've seen companies taking college out of the requirements.
UI just
Yeah, we don't, yeah,
All kinds of things, yeah.
absolutely, we don't have that as
I love the way
well.
this is going.
We have a question from the live stream. This is from the incredible Fanny Dunnigan. And she is asking, can you give examples of how to demonstrate employer culture and values to candidates? Thank you, Fanny.
So one thing I talk about with culture, because I get this question all the time as a recruiter, and I use this example for when it's true. A lot of times I'll be working a role that I'm talking to that candidate about, and literally a day later or a week later, I'll get an email saying they filled it internally. That means someone within the organization was ready to be promoted, or they raised their hand and they said they wanted that role. And for me, that is how I show culture and growth within an organization. The proof is in the pudding.
Thank you very much. Next question is from Tomas Kwiatkowski. If you're not following this guy on LinkedIn, you should be after today. Give it up for Tomas.
Thanks so much for being here, guys. It's an honor to be here and listen, obviously, to everything that you had to say tonight. My question is pertaining to the purpose. Julian talks about a lot of about his mission, his purpose for stewardship, and about discovering his skills, development of those skills, and then deploying those skills for the benefit of other people. My question is, what's your purpose? And then how can you help a candidate effectively discover their purpose during the interview process? Because that's often a question. What drives you? What's your purpose? How can you help them answer that question effectively?
Did I take that one?
Thank you.
Thanks, man.
Great question.
Oh.
I can, no, it's fine. I answer this question a lot. So one of the things, if you look at your own history, what you learned in school, what your parents taught you, what you studied in college, your hobbies, the skills you've learned from all the various jobs you've had, working at a grocery store, whatever, you end up at some point using bits and pieces of all that to do what you currently do. And like I said before, we don't all currently just do necessarily one thing. We bring in all the cool things that we've learned and know how to do into the job that we have. And I call that making your day job your dream job, okay? Because you're using you and all the things that you bring to the table, and that's why you're here. That's the purpose question right there.
Awesome.
Oh, we got follow-up.
Oh, wait, follow-up question too. Oh, caller from Tomas. Oh, right here. What's your name?
Hi, Victoria. My question is for Adam. You had spoken about building employee loyalty, and I feel like our companies, we're a small company, we're growing really fast. And one of the questions I asked is, why are you looking for a new opportunity? And a lot of time they say there's no career growth. And I feel like some of our employees feel like that might be the situation for them. Yeah. I'm working on my best, but what would you say is the best way to kind of show that loyalty?
You want to take your name and company you work for if you want?
Oh, Victoria with the Mediocre Corporation.
Yeah, I mean, again, it comes back to what we were talking about before. It's transparency. Don't say something if you don't believe it, right? And that would never come up. If I'm asked that question, I'm going to answer that from the heart and be authentic about it. I think that's really what it comes down to, and not. There's no point in having smoke and mirrors in the recruiting process. All it's going to do is create immediate attrition, and you'll be back to square one in the recruiting process.
Thank you. Lila?
Hi, I get to have questions? Okay. I always have questions. I have a question for Courtney. You had talked about the choose your own adventure model of interviewing. And it's so exciting. And I know that there are going to be a lot of people watching this who are really excited about having that kind of comfortable experience of, I get to showcase who I am and I get to be exactly who I am in this interview process. But then what happens when they're at Mailchimp? How is that kind of same value communicated to management strategy and expectations for workload and incorporating that choose your own adventure for how to be the star that you are at Mailchimp when they're already working there?
So to make sure I understand your question is how do we translate the outcome of the interview and the way that candidate showed up to their day-to-day work?
Yeah.
It's a great question. It's hard interviews are hard, right? It's very hard to take 45 minutes or an hour with one person and feel like you've evaluated enough. So we build in a lot of rigor around that interview process, so we feel like we get a really good evaluation of that candidate, and how that might apply day to day, right? So there's different teams where it may be, if it's a principal engineer, we may need you to kind of sit and build the next big thing. If it is a more junior engineer, we need someone who can work collaboratively with you. If you're applying for a senior engineer, we need to see that mentorship kind of come out. So as I was talking earlier, with those different choose your own adventures, there's softer skills I think that we can help pull out as well that will help us determine kind of on the job how do those translate into the day to day.
You encourage those requests from people to say, for example, how do you want to show up at work today? How will you best collaborate? How do you best bring yourself to the table? Is that ongoing at Mailchimp?
Yeah, absolutely. Most of our interviews have a values portion, so where we talk as much as our technical skills and about the job and the requirements of the role. We spend a lot of time talking about values and those softer skills and how those folks show up every day, and whether or not that would be a great complement to the team at Mailchimp.
Cool. And then I have another question for Craig, because I also run a reciprocal branding program for employers and employees, and I frequently come up against this question of compliance. And because you're working with Toyota so much, I'm wondering, because they're such a huge organization, and then there's also Toyota Financial, that they must have compliance concerns about personal branding. Like, I agree, I would love to see a full employee personal story about who are the people who work at Toyota and what are their values off work time. I would love to see them go home, and I'm sure that somebody at Toyota has raised a compliance concern about what people will and won't expose and how that will or won't be in line with company values or an international brand, how that will affect cross-cultural global business.
Right. So one of the things that I've always thought was important is to treat your employees like they're grown-ups. Okay? Generally they are. And so the use your best judgment thing is very important. You expect them to have good judgment. That's why they're employed there, right? And if they don't employ good judgment, they might not need to be employed there, right? And so if you just make that clear, we're not saying you can or have to or should do anything. But if you want to, we'd love for you to help us let the rest of the world know about our awesome culture and who you are as a person. All you want. And we want you to be you. We had a great tagline that we came up with for recruiting at CA Technologies to actually find the geeks and the freaks of the world, and it was bring what you bring. And it was all about, and it went worldwide, and it started actually in India. We had real estate there that you couldn't see our sign because Microsoft was in the way. And so we did bus stops, and we did billboards, and we just had this great bring what you bring campaign all over the place. And it's a universal message, but just common sense and enabling people and empowering them, not requiring them to do anything to expose the awesome culture of the company and themselves.
So we have a question for the live stream. We have a lot of job seekers here as well that are asking for some advice. So this question is from Tapas Das, and he's asking, what's the last thing a candidate can do before leaving the interview room that might be a great way to leave a strong impression?
I want to hear what you have to say on this one.
Adam, take it.
Yeah. That's an interesting one. I like when candidates ask, is there anything about my experience that I didn't discuss that's relevant to this role? Is there questions? You have to ask questions. You have to ask lots of questions. That shows you're inquisitive, and that is a number one skill that we look for in a lot of the jobs. That you're always trying to find out the why, that you're a natural problem solver, that you want to get to the root of an issue or a question of a problem and be that problem solver. Absolutely.
Thank you, Tapas, for your question. Oh, Courtney, did you have something to add?
I was going to say questions, educated, right, and relevant questions. Do your research, know what the company's doing, know what's going on in the industry that the company is in, any like topical matters that may be relevant. But when I ask a candidate if they have any questions and they don't, I'm super disappointed.
That might be my number one turnoff on a phone screen or an interview.
Yeah.
I've got a couple of good questions that you can ask. So if we're on the questions topic, always ask the interviewer, why do people like to work for you? Okay, that's a question they almost never get. And then ask them, when I'm in this role, what will be the number one thing I can do to make you successful? You got to place yourself in the role there.
And one last question to ask on an interview, when you're interviewing, why do you love working here? Hear it from them. What do you love most about working here? And you can look at their face and see a genuine smile right away. You know they really do. If they have to think about it a little bit,
So we have time for a couple more questions, but we will be happy to hang out afterwards if we don't get your question here. So we'll go and take as many as we can before we have to wrap up.
Thank you.
You want to state your name and company if you want.
Yeah, Keela with Asterisk. My question is, any thoughts on using hackathons as a recruiting tool?
Mailchimp did a lot of hackathons before my time there, so I don't have direct experience at Mailchimp with them. I think for us, again, it didn't allow us to make that connection. I think we are much more relational, and it didn't allow us. We've kind of turned the hackathon, if you will, on its head a little bit. Our engineering group each year, we have volunteer hours as an organization. We give our employees time off to volunteer. They've used their time off to bring folks into the office. We've brought in small business owners and have helped them with different areas of their business. We brought in small business owners and the engineering teams helped them build their website. So we took kind of the idea of that environment and creating and flipped on its head a little bit, again, just to make it more mutually beneficial.
Thank you. Alina?
Alina was Austin Fraser. So I have a question to Courtney because we have lots of clients who are, well, what should I do? How do you actually, as a Mailchimp, it sounds like you guys are really amazing employer. How do you stay up to date? What other tech companies offering candidates so you can attract the best talents besides having just amazing, culture? Do you do any research around the market in Atlanta? How do you stay up to date?
Yeah, 100%. We do a lot of research around our competitors in Atlanta as well as in other areas, right? With such a remote workforce these days, it's important to know what's happening not just in your hometown, but also in the world around you. So we do a lot of research on total rewards packages. We do a lot of research around retention strategies. We do a lot of research around attraction strategies. What are companies doing that's of interest?
Sources do you use?
A lot of networking. A lot of it is like just picking up the phone, using LinkedIn and connecting with someone saying, hey, can I call you? And you've done this before. Can I pick your brain for 15 minutes? That we're experiencing this. You probably did too. So a lot of it is just really, really organic networking. But yeah, I think it's really important. We do not pretend to have all the answers. Now, there are pieces that we research that we're not interested in trying to compete with. I think that's part of staying true to who we are. We are a very, I think, non-tech organization. So there's a lot of pieces of what is attractive to candidates that we choose not to play in. We again, want to stay true to who we are as an organization, but research is a big piece of how we stay abreast of that.
There is a website, hropensource.com, that has a ton of case studies that are volunteered by talent acquisition teams and HR teams worldwide, just for free to the public to do that kind of research. hros.com.
Thank you, Alina, for your question.
Thank you. My name is Craig. Question is...
Good name, Craig.
Yeah, good name, right? My question is, I've never heard a recruiter ever say that they actually do just fill positions. Everybody, of course, always says, hey, I really care about the people. But in a lot of people that you talk to out in the talent transition, situation when you ask them, hey, have you used a recruiter? Have you thought about using a recruiter? What kind of recruiters do you like to use? A lot of times I hear people say, well, you got to be careful because a lot of them are there just to fill positions. So do you find that as a stereotype? Do you find that as an issue? What are you doing about it?
We're both going to have strong opinions on this.
Okay.
Recruiters don't find people jobs. If somebody asks you to pay them money to find you a job, don't do it, because that's not what they do. And it's generally not money worth paying.
Okay.
Recruiters get jobs, and they have to go find people for those jobs. They don't find people jobs. That's not their job.
And I think it's the bad recruiters out there that give us good recruiters, a bad name. And it's kind of like real lawyers, right? Like lawyers are sharks. It's a stereotype. And it's just not true. It's about relationships and establishing those and playing the long game and staying in touch with somebody, whether it be on LinkedIn or in real life. And not only because they could provide immediate value to you or transactional, but that long-term relationship and adding mutual value and finding a recruiter or multiple recruiters. And I always encourage candidates, even if it's a contingency role I'm working, I'm like, reach out to every recruiter you know. Put yourself out there. Get yourself in front of as many jobs as possible. I'm not going to try to keep a candidate to myself because that's not who I am and not what I'm trying to do. So be authentic and it'll shine. And that's where the real talent and real recruiters will step up.
Thank you, Adam.
Oh, thank you. Hi, my name is Cindy, and I had a question for you guys. I actually have a background in sales and marketing, and I'm transitioning to build my own company, and I thought it was kind of crazy because I'm kind of a little crazy myself, where I wanted to do like intuitive consulting, and I really wanted to attract corporate or bigger businesses. Because I actually have a background like sales as far as like car dealerships and also doing marketing for them. What would be, how do I transition, or what would be, just talking to you guys, how do I approach a bigger company or a corporate? Because I've always been like a small business and a freelancer. Like what can I do to like brand myself so I can target bigger companies?
So again, wanting to clarify, how do you brand yourself as a small business to an enterprise for them to use your services?
Yeah, like consulting as well as making marketing more human, making branding more human. Like I'm like into energy and like empathy. I don't just look at and say, well, we're not connected with our customers. I look at what kind of energy do you have? Are you really, you have a workflow that actually connects at a human level? Like how can I implement those words into like a marketing, put that together for a bigger corporation that maybe is focused on numbers and percentages? Like how do I translate that?
Yeah, Craig, you just said something really, I think, powerful and easy. I think, I don't mean to oversimplify it either, but I think kind of sales 101 is find the need. So there's a need there somewhere, and I think it takes a lot of asking questions to uncover that. And you just made a great point as well.
Yeah, you got to write about it. So find your target organization, right? Who are the companies that you want to do work for? And then do some research about those companies and write something intuitive about how they could do whatever they're doing better. Publish it on LinkedIn and tag all their recruiters and all their salespeople and all their marketing people and all their executives in your posts, and do it again and again, and then create some brilliant marketing for them and do it for free. Okay? I mean, what else are you going to do? Like, it's better than cold calling. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And our final question goes to Lila.
I'll just say from experience as an independent professional, I have some people who work with me now, but I started with a hashtag on LinkedIn, hashtag Say Things Better. And I've now worked for Merck and the Dallas Mavericks, and I'll be working for Mailchimp shortly.
She's not wrong. She's not wrong.
And Toyota and TalentNet. So yeah, I mean, put yourself out there and say, I want to do work with you. This is why I feel like I have something to add to your organization. Just answering your question from the perspective of someone who is doing that work and getting it and getting paid for it. But also I have a question for the whole panel here. I would love to hear some talk of what you're doing to create an inclusive experience for people who are protected by the Americans with Disabilities Act, but otherwise, not just people with physical disabilities, people with neuroatypical or, not neurotypical processing, how are you evaluating soft skills for roles that maybe they don't express themselves the same way? Do you have training? Are there people who are giving you any kind of tools in your organization to prepare you to create an inclusive environment for people with disabilities or neuroatypical processing systems?
This is such an important question. I'm really glad you brought it up. It's a hard question, right, to answer. We do not have anything formal in place. We are working on ways to bring some of that, because to your point, it's people need trained on how to do that well, and it's very important as we continue to drive towards a really strong culture of DE&I. Internally, we've supported our employees starting an employee resource group for all of our employees with neurodisabilities. So they have budget and programming, and we want to do everything we can as an organization to support that. From a candidate perspective, if it is brought up, right, because it's protected, so if it is brought up in an interview process, we make sure to accommodate in the best ways that we can, whether it's through captioning, through Zoom calls versus face-to-face interviews, whether it's through, whatever the case may be. It's tough though, because it's not always known. So I think there is a lot of opportunity for education about it, and being very transparent. That's something that we need to work to get better on.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to thank our panel. I'd like to thank our keynote speaker, Lila Smith. I'd like to thank Kyle Burt, the man with the LinkedIn Live. I'd like to thank Adam Posner back there, who hooked it up with all the live stream and production. I'd like to thank everyone on the live stream, everyone who is part of this at City Central, and of course, everyone here in attendance. Thank you all very much. Oh, and we have the venue till 10 o'clock, and there's still plenty of food and booze, so feel free to help us. Good job, man. How'd you go? Great job. It was amazing, yeah. Adam, what do you think?
Alright guys, that is a wrap. Let me see if Lila wants to say a few words on her live stream. Do you want to add anything to your live stream?
Oh, are people here?
We're both live right now.
We're live right now? Hi.
Yeah.
If you're here and you've hung in this whole entire time, thank you. If you came just to see Kyle Burt, I'm sorry. I really stuck him behind the camera this time. This was my first live stream. I had nothing to do with the production of it. It was all him. Thank you, Kyle, for consulting with me and making this happen.
Of course.
I don't know if there were questions of yours that we didn't get to, then email me at lila@savethingsbetter.com. My LinkedIn inbox is a jungle and I'll never see it.
Cool, guys. The gimbal just died.
Okay.
Batteries are running out on everything.
Goodbye, batteries. Goodbye, people.
Yes.
I still have your little baby.
Yes.
Okay.
All right. But hey, thanks for joining this whole time, because, man, the gimbal just died on us. Yeah. Say something. Yeah, the gimbal's dead. I'm holding it.
Who is this?
Huh?
Who is this right here?
Here, back up a little bit.
Who is this?
This is the whole live feed.
This the live feed?
Yep.
Okay. I just want to say.
Hold the mic up.
I just want to say, I don't think you guys understand what Kyle is doing here, what type of setup he has. I have never seen anything like this. I said it in the comments, but it's above my pay level and comprehension level. And I just want to say that, without people like Kyle, this wouldn't be live stream. People in other cities, probably other countries, will not be able to see it. So please give him some love, give everybody love that showed up to this event, because that's what it's about. It's teamwork, it's a community thing, and I'm getting a headache just looking at this.
What, you talking about the command center?
So what?
The command center?
Command center, yes. So just thank you for all you do, man.
Oh, who hit that?
You lost it.
Somebody put that on there. All right, cool. All right, guys. Oh, and thanks to Daryl, the other camera guy.
Hey, it's been a blast. I've had a really good time on the Lila Smith live show, so it's been fantastic. Some great speakers tonight. Really enjoyed it. Had fun too.
Yeah, man. Well, appreciate it.
You bet.
Appreciate the help today. All right, guys. We're gonna end this here. Here we go. Bye.